Welcome to the Tenant Screening Podcast, a training course for landlords to understand how to effectively find great renters. Sponsored by VeteranLandlord.com. And now your host, Edward O'Daniel.
Hello, landlords. Welcome to another episode of the Tenant Screening Podcast. I'm your host, Edward O'Daniel. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode. This episode, we're going to be covering employment verification. So again, part of the screening process that you're going to have to do is verify that the person works for wherever they say they're working from and they're making as much money as they say they're making. So this is very important that you do this because this goes directly back to looking at your qualifications that we talked about on a previous episode. If you do need to make 3 times the monthly rent, 4 times the monthly rent, whatever that number is for you, how do you really verify that that the person applying makes that much money? Well, part of it we talked about in a previous episode as well, getting a rental application and getting 2 months worth of paycheck stubs. Well, the problem is right now is paycheck stubs are not all equal. So some people don't actually print them out. Some people only have them on their mobile phone. So looking at them on a mobile phone is not really like getting a printout from like ADP or some other type of more professional like payroll processing type firm. But getting a paycheck stub that you could read and I can actually understand is very important. So that's one thing. And you can ask them for that, the applicant, and make sure they can get that over to you. But that's just one thing. I've seen these be faked before. I've seen people generate paycheck stubs just online. Then they can put their name, they can put whatever hourly rate is, and those rates and the amount of employment that they have and the number of hours per week don't match their actual work environment or even match where they're working at all. So just because they provide you with paycheck stubs, I wouldn't just take that at face value and say, okay, they work there, they give me paycheck stubs, I'm going to put 100% on this. You need to do your due diligence. You need to contact the company. You need to go through employment verification and make sure that they actually work there. That's how much money on their paycheck stubs. That indicates that's how much money that they make per hour or per year, whatever that is. And the status of their employment. Are they currently employed there still? Are they part-time or full-time? Because all of these go back to you being able to accurately generate how much money they make each single month. Now, I will tell you, employment verification can be an absolute pain. Okay, it's one of those things that if you're putting people in there, I would have to say go through it. This is an absolute must, in my opinion, that you go through this to make sure that they actually work there. Because the last thing you want to do is be faked, move somebody in, and then find out afterwards that you didn't do your due diligence, and now you have to forcibly kick them out because they got in there and now they don't have any money to continue paying. It's happened before. So employment verification is very important. This can be done sometimes easily, and sometimes very difficulty, and sometimes not at all. And let me explain what I mean by that. Somebody applies, submits an application to you, and they give you their paycheck stubs. Now, typically, depending on where they work at, you may be able to do something as simple as call up the office and just say, "Hey, I've got John Smith here. I'm just going to use John Smith as just the example I've been using in this podcast series as the applicant's name. Hey, John Smith is applying for one of our rental units, and I just want to make sure that he works there. He indicates that he's a foreman, that he works here. This is his boss's name. I just wanted to see if it's possible for me to check to see if he works there." Now, if it's a small enough company, they might be like, "Sure, John works here. He's been working here for 2 years," and they might even give you how much money he makes and so forth. Now, some companies may do that. Other companies can see that as a violation of the employee's privacy, and they may make you submit not only an employment verification form, but they also may make you submit the rental application as well. That gives it the agreement and authorization section by the applicant to give you the information that you require. So all of that information may need to be either emailed or faxed into the company in order for them to provide you that information. So this is where it takes a little bit more work to kind of get this done. So again, sometimes companies can give you that information over the phone if they're not too big, or if you're just simply nice enough and let them know what's going on, because John Smith may be a very liked person there, and John may have told people at work that he's moving and he's trying to find a new place. They want to help him out. But other companies have policies and procedures on how to do employment verification. So if you go to larger companies, sort of even like not mom and pop type companies, but even the next step up, small businesses, if you want to do an employment verification, then you need to submit the documentation to them. And when you call them, you actually need to talk and ask them to talk to their HR department. HR stands for human resources. So this is the person at the company involved with either having people fill out paperwork, doing payroll, something like that. You want to find out who that person is, get them on the phone, find out their email address, scan the rental application over to them, and scan the employment verification form over to them, asking them any questions that you want. Some of the standard questions are just, does this person work for you full-time or part-time? How much does this person work in an hour? When did this person start working for you? Just things like that. You want to make sure that that information, if they say that, if the employer says they've been working there 2 years, go look on the rental application. Does it say that he's been working there for 2 years? Great. Then that's a thumbs up. That information matches. So all of these things should line up and match. All you're doing is just doing your due diligence to make sure that they actually work there and they're not trying to fake you out. So calling the company could work, but right now, as companies try to outsource more and more, the HR department is one of those things that gets outsourced. So some companies don't have an HR department. And what you're going to find is that they're going to be using a company called The Work Number. So it's actually theworknumber.com. It's an outside employment verification service that you have to go through if you want to do verification through certain companies. Now, the problem with this is that in order to get to the work number does charge you. I think last time I checked, it was like $40 or $50 to get an employment verification. That's just for the employment verification from them. That's not including all the other screening reports. So either the applicant is going to have to pay for that, or if you can get the applicant to do this, they should be able to log into their payroll department, or go through the work number themselves, and they can just simply do like screen prints of the information. So that's another way that you can handle it. But there are some problems that you have doing employment verification. Sometimes I could tell you that if you're going through the work number and you don't want to do that, then what you're going to have to do is just kind of try to charm the supervisor. So you may not get information, and let me kind of tell you what I mean here. Inside of the tenant screening handbook, this is the handbook that we've been talking about here. It's just an ebook that I created to help you out with all of this, available at the Veteran Landlord. If you look at this, I have some scripts in here of just common scripts that you can use when calling some of these companies. Now, if you're nice enough, sometimes people will just actually give you the information, but they won't give you personal or private information. So let me tell you what I mean. If you're asking the person, for instance, part of the application has their supervisor, who is their boss there at work. Well, if you call their boss, or even if you email their boss, which it, again could be, if you email them, then you can just simply say, hey, I'm not looking for any private information. Like, here's my script that I'm reading from. Let's just say you call and you talk to the supervisor. Supervisor says, hello, this is John Smith. How can I help you? Hello, my name is, fill in your name with your company or what it is, your business name. One of your employees is applying for one of our newly remodeled homes, and I'm just trying to verify that he works for you. I'm not looking for any private information. I just need to verify if he works for the company and if he's full or part-time. Can you help me get this so I can get their application approved? So you're asking something like that, just sort of in a very nice way. So you're trying to talk to their boss. You're like, hey, I don't want to get you in any kind of trouble. I'm not asking that you give me how much they make an hour or anything like that, but they should be able to say, is he full-time? Is he part-time? Or even just like, how long has he been working there? I mean, that may be pushing it a little bit, but you can ask simple questions like this. And sometimes a supervisor will just simply tell you, he's full-time and he's been working here for about 2 years. Great. I just want to make sure that he works there. You can understand my perspective. I'm just trying to make sure and do my due diligence. Thank you so much for answering my questions, and have a good day. So if you can get a hold of the supervisor or even email them, sometimes you can get that information. If you're running across a brick wall with the work number, or you're just not getting a response from the HR department regarding this, typically it takes about 1 to 2 days to get an employment verification back from a company. So sometimes if all the other information regarding their application lines up, if you have a good feeling, if everything else, if there's no other red flags on everything, then, and the paycheck stubs seem legitimate, they look good, they don't seem fake at all, or the fonts aren't different sizes, that's another good way to look at it. And if the fonts are all different, like they copied and pasted stuff on there, then you may just not need to get verification from the employment. You can just take their paycheck stubs at face value, but try to do your due diligence as best you can to get the employment verification done. So these are just a couple of different ways that you can get this finished. Now, all of this, all it does is just lead to you getting an overall better picture of the applicant, to make sure they're telling you the truth, to make sure that you have accurate information in order to move forward. So hopefully you've enjoyed this just short episode regarding the employment verification. Hope it's helpful for you, for landlords out there that have been trying to do this before. Thank you guys so much for listening to another episode. Please stay tuned. Thank you so much, and have a great day.
Thank you for listening to the Tenant Screening Podcast. To get your free copy of the Tenant Screening Handbook, visit us at veteranlandlord.com and create your free account. If you find this material valuable, we'd appreciate it if you can share this podcast with others and leave us a great review.